Hello and welcome. I am a French style enthusiast. I live in London and I have been creating content on YouTube for about 16 years. What I talk about usually on my channel is style, beauty, and Frenchness, how to inject a little bit of French je ne sais quoi to your life. So in the previous video, I went over where Hermes came from, what it stands for, and a few technical words of vocabulary that you might need to know. And in today's video, I am going to go over the various leathers because if you have ever been interested in buying an Hermes bag, then sooner or later you've come across words like Togo, Clémence, Epsom, Chèvre, Barenia, and what do they mean? How do you pronounce them? So in this video, I'm going to go through the most important Hermes leathers, showing you what each one looks like, how to pronounce its name, and a little bit about its history, texture, and characteristics. So you can think of this as your visual and auditory guide to the Hermes leathers. Let's start off by the most popular one, which is Togo. So Togo is a premium pebbled calf skin introduced in 1997. It is the most popular and collector preferred leather because it's used in iconic bags like the Birkin and the Kelly due to its remarkable durability, lightweight feel, and the ability to hold its shape while remaining soft. So the texture of it is essentially, it has a raised grain and natural ridge lines. So it has veinings that make it look really interesting and add also a little bit of unique character to each bag that is made of that leather. The next, you have the Clémence leather, and the full name of the Clémence leather is Veau Taurillon Clémence. And this one is famous for heavy bull calf hide. It was introduced in 1992. It is also pebbled, but it's softer and smoother to the touch than the Togo leather with slightly larger grain. Clémence is heavier than other Hermes leathers and it lacks the rigid structure, so it will over time develop a relaxed slouch. So if you find an Hermes bag made of Clémence leather, which is a bit slouchy on a resale platform, secondhand, then that is the reason, because over time it develops a bit of a slouch. So now let's go over the chèvre leather. So that chèvre in French just means goat. And what it is a premium, lightweight, very durable goat skin leather, which is prized for its natural grain, brilliant color absorption, and also its ability to hold a crisp shape. So if you're looking for a leather good that is going to be in a very colorful colorway, such as, for example, bright red or turquoise, then it would be a good idea to do it in the chèvre. So that's the chèvre leather. Then you have the absolute classic, which is the Hermes box calf leather. So this one is the oldest leather that all the original bags are made of. It was introduced in the 1890s and named after an English shoemaker who was called Joseph Box. And it is a rigid leather which is boardy and but very shiny. And over time it develops patina and essentially becomes extremely shiny essentially. So that one scratches a little bit more easily than the others that I've mentioned so far. And if you find, for example, an original Hermes Kelly from the 1950s or 60s, it's very likely that it's going to be made of box leather. Okay, so it's usually paired with the cellier structure. Then you've got the Hermes Epsom leather, and that one is a popular lightweight calfskin which has been heat pressed. So because it is a pressed leather, it is scratch resistant and water repellent, and it's really easy to clean. For example, if you want something that has a lot of structured, you're going to use an Epsom leather to ensure that the rigidity of the bag remains unchanged over time. And so that's something to keep in mind. It's ideal for structured cellier styles, essentially. So that is Epsom leather. Then the next leather we're going to talk about is the Swift leather. So that one is mythical. And essentially it's a smooth, semi-matte, full grain calfskin that is essentially excellent for color absorption. So for example, I follow a fantastic YouTuber who has found a secondhand orange Kelly bag in Swift leather, and she can't stop raving about it, and has taken pictures of it in the sun because it shines a little bit in the sun, and the absorption of the orange of the bag that she selected was excellent because it was Swift leather. The Swift leather is also very lightweight, which means that if you're buying a larger bag, having a lightweight leather is of course a plus. And then you've got the Barenia leather. So this is a calf leather that was used by Hermes in the 1970s, and it is known for its smooth surface, and it basically undergoes a tanning process involving chrome and vegetable dyes and oil treatment, so that over time it will develop a distinctive patina. And the Barenia leather is very smooth, but they also created another one called Barenia Faubourg, and that was issued in 2017, and that one is much more grained. So I'll put a photo of both so that you can see the difference, but the Barenia Faubourg has a lot more grain than the Barenia without the Faubourg attached to the name. Right, let's move on to the next one. Is Evercolor. So the Evercolor was introduced in 2012. It is a satin finish calfskin, a flexible, small satin finish grain, but at the same time it is also scratch resistant, which is a very good option. In terms of color absorption, it's fantastic. So it really creates vivid colors, and it's a mid-tier specialty leather in terms of standard of use. So I would say this one's a really good option because I personally like the small grain leathers like the Swift and this one, the Evercolor, and the Tas de l'Acte, but they tend to be scratch prone, and so having one that is scratch resistant but also has a small grain and is a little bit shiny seems like a very good option. Okay, Tas de l'Acte is our next one, and it is a quite smooth, glossy calfskin that looks remarkably similar to the box calf, but isn't as rigid and stiff. So actually, I think this one looks fantastic. It's great for example, the Constance or the Kelly Pochette. It is a highly premium leather that is smooth, and the only downside is that it's very sensitive to scratches. So if you wanted a Kelly that looked like the old 1950s Kelly, but wasn't as stiff, you could, for example, imagine doing a Kelly retourné in Tas de l'Acte leather, and that would give you the vibe of the shininess of the vintage Kellys without their boxiness. So that could be a good mix, for example. Right, and now the last of our standard leathers that are currently available in store is going to be the Negonda. So the Negonda leather is similar to Clémence, but it's matte, and it's basically engineered specifically to handle outdoors element. So it's not going to lose its shape, it's not going to suffer from water damage, and it resists scratches. So a very sturdy kind of leather. It's best for the garden party tote, for example, and it's very utilitarian in terms of leather. The color absorption is moderate, so it's going to produce like deep earth toned matte colorways, and it's essentially almost exclusively used actually for the garden party line, and it's a very resistant kind of leather. Okay, so we're now done with the standard normal leathers that you can currently get at Hermes, and let's now move on to the exotic leathers. Currently you can have crocodile and ostrich made into bags, so I'll say them in French so you could pronounce them in French if you'd like to. So crocodile is crocodile. It is available in two finishes, a glossy one and a matte one, which the matte one is going to look more like velvet, the glossy one one looks like extremely shiny and glossy, and they both absorb color really well, and so they can be really interesting to have in bright, vivid color. Counterintuitively, it is extremely easy to scratch it, so it needs to be very well cared for, and it has no water resistance, so it can be damaged by water. So delicate, very fragile bags, but obviously stunning. The next one is ostrich leather, which in French is pronounced autruche. And one of the things that is very interesting about how Hermes works on that leather is that the follicles where the quill used to be are usually normally raised, but at Hermes they smooth them and they fill them up. And so when you touch it, it's actually completely smooth. And over time, well, in contact with your hands and how you use it, essentially the leather will become darker, and it will also become a little bit glossier over time. The key traits of that leather is that it's very scratch resistant, durable and lightweight, and it retains its structure really well. So unsurprisingly, it's very good, for example, for a Kelly in the cellier structure, or a Birkin 30, and it looks also really good with bolide, which looks a little bit like the Vuitton Alma. So it has that structured appearance. So bolide would be a good one to use the ostrich leather for. In terms of color absorption, it's excellent, and so you can do really bright colors in the ostrich leather, and it will work really well. Right, so now that we've done all the core and standard leathers that are currently in store, let's move on to the ones that are discontinued. A big part of what I do on this channel is help you to build a luxury wardrobe on a budget by shopping secondhand. A lot of my videos are about using those resale platforms such as Vinted or eBay, and also how to refresh your style and inject a little bit of French style into your life by shopping for luxury items secondhand. So it makes a lot of sense to include the discontinued leathers in this video because you are going to find them on the listings on resale platforms. So I want you to be able to figure out which leathers, even though they're discontinued, which leathers the bag that you're trying to buy secondhand is made of, so that you can get an understanding about whether or not the leather will, for example, stand the test of time, go well with the color that you're trying to buy, and all these kinds of considerations. So let's get into the discontinued leathers. Okay, so the first one of our discontinued leathers is Courchevel. So it's a highly popular embossed heat-pressed calfskin, so very similar to Epsom, and it was heavily used throughout the 1980s and the 1990s, and it was officially retired in 2004. Because it's pressed, it has a uniform pattern, and it has also a slightly glossy protective sheen. It is excellent, for example, for cellier types of shapes, because when a leather is pressed, it's a little bit more rigid. In terms of color, it's produced really good, vibrant vintage blues in the 1980s. So if you're looking for a good option that will likely be in really good condition despite its age, I would say Courchevel is a really good option. Right, the next one is Ardennes. So I'll pronounce it again, Ardennes. And that one is a cow leather. It's heavy duty, it's thick. It comes from a region called Ardennes, surprisingly. Ardennes has a large grain, and it's essentially the workhorse leather that Hermes uses for large travel bags or everyday bags. It was discontinued in the early 2000s, and it's a good bet for the very large bags. So for example, Birkin 35, Birkin 40, or Haut à Courroie. and it's scratch resistant. It's pretty much indestructible. I've heard that it was so sturdy that Hermes discontinued it because they were afraid that people would stop buying bags because the Ardennes bags would never basically become damaged or have to be replaced. But that's maybe urban myth, I do not know. The next discontinued leather is Fjord, and Fjord is a unpressed cowhide, which has a matte natural grain with a visible vertical skin tracking, so basically veins. So it's going to be pretty similar to Togo. It repels rain, it doesn't spot in the rain, and it was discontinued in the 2010s when Hermes pivoted towards smaller grain and lighter calfskins, so that one was a bit too heavy. It's usually seen in vintage Birkin and in sac à dépêche. So the sac à dépêche was the original name of the Kelly bag, and it has total scratch resistance, so it's basically impossible to damage it, or damn near impossible to damage it. And it's the only Birkin that you could, for example, take in a rainstorm is one made of Fjord leather. Then we've got a number of other leathers. Let's go to Gulliver. So I'll pronounce this one Gulliver. That was the one that was replaced by Swift. And it's basically a buttery soft calfskin with microscopic grain, so basically it's completely smooth, and it was discontinued in 1999. It was very easy and comfortable and flexible and soft, but quite delicate. So it would pick up scuffs very easily. It gave a very lovely slouch to bags. So obviously this is a perfect leather for retourné style, and it would go well with a vintage Kelly Mou or a vintage Birkin 30, for example. The color absorption was amazing, so very similar to the Swift leather, and that is going to create a glossy finish on your bag. Then you've got the Chamonix. So I'll pronounce this again, Chamonix. That's a ski station in France, just in case you were wondering. Chamonix is a smooth matte calfskin. So sorry, that's my my dog sighing in the background and telling me that I've been too long, and you're probably thinking the same now, that this is going on too long, so I'm going to speed it up. So essentially, Chamonix is another type of leather that has been discontinued, which you might want to check out on your vintage resale listings. It is essentially a matte alternative to the box calf. It is smooth but matte. So that's an interesting combination, and it's also temperamental. So it picks up scratches and suffers permanent blistering from rain. So it's pretty much the diva of leathers. It would go really well in a cellier structure. The color absorption is moderate, so it's good for neutrals essentially, and it's engineered actually to retain its velvet matte finish. Right, so because my dog is telling me that it's time to finish, I am going to simply put a list here of the remaining types of leather that you might want to see, that you might see in a vintage listing. So you have veau grain lisse, veau grain lisse. You have the Amazonia, which isn't a leather at all, actually. It is a canvas coated with rubber. You have the leather called Jonathan. You have the one called Maurice. And you have one called Evergreen. And just for kicks, while I was researching this video, I found a Kelly bag made of suede. And I didn't even know that it was possible to make a Kelly bag out of suede. It was probably a short-lived blip on the timeline of the Kelly bag, and I'll just include it here in a photo so that you can feast your eyes on that amazing unicorn that I found on one of my many second-hand hunts. So I hope you enjoyed falling down the rabbit hole with me on the Hermes leathers as I'm trying to build this encyclopedia of Hermes terms, how to pronounce them, what they mean, and what, you know, how to understand the world of Hermes. In future videos, I will go over other things like the bag models or the colors as well. So if that's of interest, stick around and you know what to do at the end of this video. Thank you. Bye.